jamming.
Hello and welcome to Dynamite Neddy. It's the Retro Games podcast where a couple of old friends get together and talk about a couple of old games. That's usually our remit. This time, however, we're doing a special episode just for yourselves at Sage, the Sonic Amateur Games Expo. Rather than looking at retro games as we usually do, we are looking at Sonic fan games, old and new. The voice you're hearing just now is myself, Sonic the Hedgehog. Joining me, as always, we have Knuckles the Echidna.
Konnichiwa.
And Miles Tails Prower, I guess.
How's it going?
I was debating doing that, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to fight to try and be Knuckles, or if Andy's just going to jump straight in.
You know what? Hand in heart, I probably am more of a Tails.
Well, the voice you're actually hearing is myself, Mick Clockerty, and joining me as always, we've got Andy MacArthur.
Konnichiwa, once more.
And Mick McCormick.
Hello.
So I'm going to also hit out with a slight content warning off the bat. The voices you'll be listening to for the next 2 hours, if you manage to stick with it, by the way, and well done if you do, we are working class and Scottish, so there will be swear words and possibly some adult themes, so maybe keep that in mind. If that's not the type of thing that's usually at your taste, and go and take a run and fuck to yourself. But
It's a content and accent and dialect warning, I would say.
It's a real challenge for you, man, to get through this. So it is.
So, as I kind of muddled through in the intro, we'll be playing Sonic fan games. Mr. McCormick should be able to tell you a wee bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Myself and Andy, if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, have alluded to our time spent as teenagers in the Sonic fan games HQ forums and been part of the scene, and we've not really, been keeping that much on top of the scene in recent years, but we've decided to, for Sage, just have a look through the kind of intervening period and find some highlights, find some Sonic fan games that we've played and maybe some of the other ones haven't played, swap them about and get people's opinions on them and just give a wee overview of how we think the whole scene's kind of moved on from the early days of Click Team that me and Andy are used to. Back when I was hanging out as Rex, the one half of Sly and Rex, and Andy, I believe, was Sonic Fire. Back, as I said, as much younger men. So I'd be interested in having a wee whistle-stop tour and seeing what the past, present and future, as you would have in Sonic CD, of these games is going to be.
As I'm saying, boys, I'm a tourist in your world just now. When Indiana Jones and his dad Sean Connery travel to Nazi Germany, I'm a pilgrim in an unholy land. So you'll need to be keeping me right.
Aye, well, I remember back in the day when we came across Games Factory after playing games like Sonic Boom. And what was the other one? There was ones like When Tails Gets Bored and Tails in the Search for 100 Rings. Very Tails heavy, early Sonic fan games. But I remember
it's a fan favourite, of course.
I remember we had a wee shot at making a game called Sonic Zero. Sonic Zero was basically the sprite, which was just a blue orb.
It literally was a blue circle with a wee white circle because that's the reflection of the sunlight.
And I think that it was it could loosely be called a platformer, but I think the platforms were made out of stock Games Factory assets for the backgrounds and stuff, so it wasn't great. It was great in our eyes, but I suppose because you're making the game, the imagination that you have sort of makes the game look different to everybody else looking at it.
We were proud of it, and that kind of gave me the bug to keep working on these games and just making a few things like a lot of community members the scene is probably familiar with. A lot of these games never get finished. I never finished very many things, but I did contribute the odd bit of couple of wee mini games for Sage and an engine back in the day. But I think most of the time was just spent on the forums, talking shite about Sonic to other teams across the world.
Yeah, it developed into like a very forum heavy kind of thing. Started off just two guys sitting making games, but at this time the whole thing was taking off, and now it's at a point where getting into Sonic fan gaming, you would probably either need to use one of the engines that already exist, or else cancel everything for a year to build your own.
I guess we're going to have a Dynamite Neddy first later in the episode. If you tune in that long, we're actually going to be playing a game that I made, or at least had a hand in.
Ooh.
Usually we're playing classics for Konami and Sega and the like, but Mick's going to be dissecting a game straight from the teenage mind of Michael McCormick, so stay tuned for that one towards the end. Should be interesting.
Yep.
Aye, and it ticked a lot of boxes. It was problematic as well, which is what I was looking for. So
it may seem like
pretty woke for sure.
No matter how much it seems like it when he's describing that game, no drugs were consumed because everybody was 11. Which is kind of like being on drugs, to be honest.
Well, see, yous came for this community that these fan games sprouted out for. It seems to be quite a wholesome thing. Now, when I was a kind of teenager, or like 11, 12-year-old, and I was taking my first foray into the internet, it was more sort of flash games and flash cartoons that I got into, particularly like Newgrounds.com, which everything was sort of fucking edgy, like shock humour. If there was a game about Sonic the Hedgehog, it would be about you like cutting his feet off or something like that. Like, it was all really kind of dark stuff like that.
Probably for the better. We didn't get completely poisoned by the dark side of the internet early on in our lives.
Eventually, Sonic did get tainted with all that stuff, but not at this time. At this time, for some reason, we managed to escape it.
Is Andy going to go on another rant about deviant art?
No, not today, man. To each to their own.
He's already got all that out of his system.
Aye. Fucking system.
Well, other than what we've got on the go, what have you been up to lately? Just quickly, he's been playing much else?
I'm growing a beard, man.
Oh.
I'm growing
really?
a beard.
Aye. You're not a beard guy.
I'm not usually a beard merchant. But
No.
I thought for going to... I don't know, man, just a wee change, I suppose. Maybe just grow a wee beard, a wee bit of face wear, aye. But
Is your facial hair coming in ginger?
no, some grey, believe it or not, man. I fucking
Ooh.
got it. I'm going to have to get some just for men, man, to kind of clean it up a wee bit,
It's a kind of Celtic trait, isn't it? It's like a Celtic gene where even if you get a really dark hair on top, you end up with a ginger beard.
I know.
I always get ginger facial hair, aye.
The longer the beard grows, man, the kind of more the desire to get a claymore and run up the hills kind of burns inside me, see what happens.
Wear a kilt, strap a claymore to your back, that sort of thing.
Aye, I just want to go and slaughter some English, Only kidding.
Let's not pander too much to Andy's ethno-nationalist fantasies here. Scotland are playing a game of football tonight, which might make them kind of hornier for Scotland than usual.
Well, the good thing is we're playing a very nice country tonight called Israel.
Right. No, you're about to go into a geopolitical minefield here. I think we can maybe wisely swerve this one.
Aye, probably right.
There is not the time nor the place.
No.
So I've been playing a wee game which was part of the bundle for racial justice, which I downloaded a few weeks ago. The 1700 or whatever mini games. One of them was a game called Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass, which I've loved.
Oh, I didn't realise that was on there. That's always in articles about games inspired by Earthbound.
Yeah, it's definitely inspired by Earthbound. I mean, even more so, I would say, than some of the ones we've played before. Lisa and in Undertale.
Nicky thing.
Yeah, Yumi Nikki as well. It's got a very kind of cutesy, cartoony exterior, but also some kind of offbeat and dark kind of themes and dark moments. It's really kind of captures that mood really well. Kind of goes in unexpected directions and stuff. It's an RPG Maker game. I'm really enjoying it. Like the writing is really good, better than most JRPGs. It's pretty funny. It's just kind of well designed. It's like a lot of these kind of RPG Maker games you find are maybe a bit unbalanced. You can kind of like maybe find an ability that's going to like make everything else obsolete. But in this everything just kind of but in this everything kind of works well together. Just a few wee subtle touches, like for example you can only carry 10 of every item, which sounds like a kind of very minor thing, but that's genius to me, because it means you can't just pick up 99 MP potions and finish the boss. Evil.
Interestingly, one of the fan games I looked at sort of overhauled the ring system, whereby Sonic could only carry... Well, you lost your rings in batches of 10, and you get a maximum of 30 rings. Just when you were saying in tens there, I was like, that's like Sonic Chrono Adventures.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like, once you go over a certain number of rings, then it doesn't particularly matter how many you have when you lose them. So that's kind of an interesting twist on it. But Jimmy and the Pulsating Maths, a recommendation for me, definitely, if you like Earthbound, which I think most days do.
And obviously anybody that does enjoy RPG Maker games can listen to our RPG Maker special, which we recorded earlier in the year. You can get that on our website. But those RPG Maker games kind of vary in quality, don't they?
Kind of parallels with the Sonic fan game scene, the old RPG Maker scene over the years.
Aye, well maybe that's our segue. Speaking of differing in quality, let's get into our Sonic fan game, shall we? I believe, Andy, are you going to kick us off?
Aye, so the first one we're going to be covering, it was a pick from Andy himself, a classic from back in the day when we were kicking about the forums, circa 2003. This is Sonic Time Attack by Jamie Bailey.
Yep, so this game came out at the height of popularity of Sonic fan games. At the time, at least in the old days anyway, at the time the community was very, very active, to the point where if you put a topic on the page, then it wouldn't be too long, maybe an hour or so before your topic was on page 2. That's how busy it was.
This means nothing to anyone under the age of 25.
Sort of leading into this game, there was sort of a massive hype about this game because Jamie Bailey had brought out a game previous to this called, I believe it was the Fated Hour, or I can't remember. He had
Jamie Bailey? It sounds like a guy that would stay up at Port or something like that. Is he? is this a local hero?
Yeah,
I think he's an English guy, yeah.
Ah, right, okay.
At the time, he was one of the big names. You had him, and you had like Red 16. Is that his name? Red 16. Jamie Bailey was good at sort of unlocking the mysteries of the Click Team programs like Games Factory and Multimedia Fusion from the programming side, or the point and click programming side as it was.
How come every other cunt's getting called like Sly and Rex and fucking Plasma Sonic and things like that, and then along comes Jamie Bailey? That doesn't sound like an anthropomorphic character.
I just remember him having a very kind of dry English sense of humour when he posted in the forums. His name kind of suited him, sort of like a fucking David Mitchell sort of vibe to him.
Alright, okay, I like him now.
He was an absolute student of Click Team based programming, so everybody was looking forward to his game coming out.
I should point out the game you're talking about was Sonic the Fast Revelation. Fated Hour was made by Blaze Hedgehog, the ill-fated hour, because he kept getting data corruption issues and losing all his work on it. But yeah, that's another story.
Fast Revelation it was, wasn't it? So basically the build up to this game was, great, we're going to get something in the same vein but with more abilities and stuff, and at the time, 2003, Sonic Adventure 2 was the most recent Sonic game, so it was all about grinding. It was all about fucking updated radical sprite work, cell shading.
Aye, when Jet Set Radio came out, that was a big thing. I'm going to kind of talk about that when I'm talking about one of my games, Neo Sonic 3. But yeah, you can see the influences of kind of what was going on with Sega at the time. People were trying to incorporate that into their games. This was a time when Sonic Adventure 2 was out and Sonic was going through his kind of extreme sports phase. He had those soap shoes, which was a real thing. It was shoes that made you be able to like grind down banisters and stuff like that. I'm sure a lot of kids fucking broke arms and legs playing with them.
Wasn't it?
But Sonic had these, and a lot of people were trying to incorporate that grinding mechanic into their games, like this one.
There was a very rich, I only knew one person with soap shoes in our town. We were quite a working class town, and soap shoes were very expensive at the time. The man...
Andy, you're showing an incredible amount of restraint in not naming this person. You're usually just dropping names all over the show.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Right, so Sonic had soap shoes in Sonic Adventure 2, right? This game, the point I was trying to make was, this game is very Sonic Adventure 2 heavy. But for instance, obviously the most famous part of Sonic Adventure 2, arguably, is its first level, City Escape.
Aye, the first level of this is very much kind of modelled off a City Escape, isn't it?
It is, aye. It's got everything that City Escape's got. City, escaping.
See with Sonic Adventure 2, if you're being honest, how much did you replay the actual game versus how much did you replay City Escape over and over and over again?
I love City Escape, man.
Everybody, I think, had it in their head, like, if there was just a Sonic game that was as good as City Escape the fucking entire way through, you would hit fucking gold.
You feel like the developers maybe checked out a bit after they'd finished making that level.
City Escape was unique because Sonic games are formulaic in nature, in that first level of a Sonic game, even Earth Day, is always a Green Hill thing. Like, it's always like Emerald Hill Zone, Green Hill.
It's often literally Green Hill these days.
Aye. Well, even just reverted back to Green Hill, they're getting lazy now. But this game, SA2, Sonic Adventure 2, first level took place in a city on a snowboard or something. Was that a snowboard?
It was a snowboard, yeah.
I think it ripped apart of a...
It was a bit of a helicopter, aye. But it was a makeshift snowboard.
A prison helicopter or something, and see you guys later. Gets down on the snowboard and that. So you've got all that going on here. But unlike Sonic Adventure 2, they use real badniks in this, so it's quite cool to like smash moto bugs and stuff, man, when you're grinding down rails and shit. I thought that was pretty cool. But where this game sets itself apart from the other games of the time is this was just after the advert, and I'm sure some people listen to this if they're still keeping up with their accents. This was one of the first games to incorporate the static engine, which dealt with keeping momentum when jumping, collision detection, and being able to sort of make the game look more like a Sonic game and less than a kind of pay-me free project.
Aye, it was basically a way, without getting into much technical detail, if you bought the Games Factory or Multimedia Fusion, you could tell one of the sprites, the characters in the game, that you wanted it to move like a platformer character. It was the default sort of built-in movement, no coding required. It felt rubbish, it felt floaty, terrible physics, you would get stuck in walls, etc. So the next kind of step, if you wanted to make something anything resembling a Sonic game, was to kind of program your own movement. The object would be static, but it would be moved by code, hence static engine. That's what this game had, but the main thing that kind of stands out to me about this game is the polish. Like, for the time, it was incredibly polished. It was a kind of step above the rest, just in terms of like, it had its own sprites. It had its own levels that were kind of custom graphics that had their own visual style. They weren't really trying to recreate Sonic 2 or something. It kind of had its own vibe about it.
Yeah.
A mix of the kind of modern and the classic, and it looked really good, and it felt so much better than what came before it.
It looks and plays a lot closer to the Game Boy Advance games than it does to the Mega Drive games.
Aye, those were big at the time, and there was like the combo system where, if you do enough, like, if you're grinding and jumping on enemies, you build up this combo meter, and that was quite fun as well.
Is the objective of the game try to play through courses and effectively speedrun them, or you try to finish them in the best time, hence time attack?
Aye, it is, to be honest with you. But that kind of brings me on to my next point. I'm going to get my balls booted for this, right? But Welsh Jamie Bailey's engine, okay, for the time, replicated Sonic probably better than anybody could at the time, in 2D games anyway. I think the level design in this game leaves a wee bit to be desired. There's a lot of repetition parts, like if you don't make a rail that just appears from nowhere, then you fall down and you've got to go and deal with the platforming again. It's like it doesn't play 100% like a Scottish game. Like,
it's clearly an English game.
Because Sonic games, as you said, Mick, are kind of about speed, getting from A to B. In this game, there's a lot more platforming involved. Sometimes the momentum of the sprite doesn't sort of match up with the level way out. Now, that's just a wee criticism, subjective.
That's maybe arguably one of the negatives you could take from the likes of Sonic Adventure 2, where, when people discuss these things, you're like, right, Sonic, it should be going fast as fuck, it should be all about momentum, bang, 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 and you get these, like, that kind of fucking desert palace stage where there's all that fucking stopping and starting and confusing fucking jiggery pokery, do you know what I mean?
I mean, you had that in the earlier games as well, but it was kind of balanced out. But I think that's a bit of a common.
Don't you be fucking besmirching my beloved Marble Zone, right? I know that's what you're fucking implying.
No, not at all. No, this time I've had that fight. But I think that was a kind of common issue with some of the games, like the you know, the Sonic Advance games, maybe the kind of later Sonic Advance, Sonic Rush games, they had a lot of those sort of bottomless pits where, you know, you'd be running along happy as Larry, and then out of nowhere there'd be a bottomless pit, you'd fall down and die. And I think the Sonic fan games that I've played recently have kind of been aware that, you know, the classic Sonic games, if you missed a platform or if you fell down, you'd usually just end up on like a lower, you know, the lower path of the level rather than actually dying. But
you could like sort of run back round and get back up. Sometimes I've noticed in one of some of the ones that I've played,
or even just like a different pathway through the level, which the first couple of Sonic games are pretty famous for, multiple paths.
I mean, there is some death drops in the Sonic games. I think there's one in Emerald Hill, I think, but it wasn't really. That's maybe a Mario thing, isn't it? There
are fucking bottomless spike pits and shit, man. Mystic Cave Zone has that bit that can fucking do you in, even if you're Super Sonic.
That's right. I hate that fucking bit, man. Honestly, that's a pure cheap shot.
I don't want to blow my own trumpet too much, but you are in celebrity company here because I am actually in this game.
That's right. I was just going to bring that up. Right, because the hype for this game was so fucking big at the time. Literally, this was the big thing to look forward to. This year's Sage is going to feature Jamie Bailey's new game. Everybody's like, okay, yes, can't wait. But to celebrate this, Jamie Bailey had a wee scheme where he invited everyone on the forum to send in what they called at the time furries, which isn't really related to which isn't really related to the
Did they really call them furries?
Furries, yes.
It was a simpler time.
At the time.
Well, I mean, if we're being technical, McCormick, it was actually your fursona, wasn't it?
It was my fursona, yeah.
At the time, right? Now, furries have developed into some sort of weird kind of culture now, right? It's kind of developed into something that I don't recognise, man. But at the time, it was just basically make your own Sonic character, just draw.
Sure, see. Yeah, Sonic go see.
Aye, man, and just draw it something original on them. Aye, exactly. I know. See. So everybody
just take one of the sprites and change its colour in MS Paint.
Exactly.
So for the demo, for Sage 2003. It got everybody to send in their furries, and they feature in the first level, so you can actually see people. There's people in their 40s now, man, that kind of disappeared, and you're seeing their furries in this game.
How come you're not in it, Andy?
I didn't have a furry. I wasn't talented enough to draw, unfortunately.
You didn't need to draw. You just like replace blue with red. What you would do, man, since I went to a bit more effort, or a very slight bit more effort, and I don't know why I decided to do this, but I kind of Frankenstein two sprites together, one of which was quite tall, the other one had quite a normal sized head, so Sonic has a kind of freaky human like proportions in it, or Rex should I say. But yeah, my furry / OC was called Rex. He was a red hedgehog who was a space pirate, which was really cool to me at the time as a 12-year-old. And he had an eye patch. But what you'll notice if you see Rex in this game is that I didn't have the sort of spatial awareness to realise that if he wore an eye patch and he turned around, you wouldn't see the eye patch, you would see his good eye. Whereas in this, no matter whether he's facing left or right, I just flip the sprite and he's wearing the eye patch on both sides. So yeah, it's a magical eye patch.
I quite like Rex, man. Rex is a pretty cool one. Right, now we're talking furries. Me and Cotterty should talk about what our Sonic furry would be. I think mine would be a gold-plated echidna wearing my family's tartan, like Braveheart style.
Mine's would be Charmy B, but he's got a balaclava on like he's in the IRA and a fucking massive dick. Oh, and he's smoking a joint.
He kind of struggles to keep, like, he stops him from flying. It makes it really difficult for him to fly. But as the beginning of the B movie says, it's physically impossible for bees to fly anyway. So, you know, when they have a massive chopper, that's the same.
Life finds a way.
Yeah, it does. But I shout out to all the developers and you know, members of the fan gaming community that had furries in this game. Some of the old names I remember. Shout out to Diablohead, shout out to Dougie the Mutant, shout out to Show Off Boy,
Sonic Spike,
yeah,
Scottish,
Arlan.
And guys, sincerely, I hope you all eventually lost your virginity.
It took me a couple of years, man, but I finally got it. But you used to bring a lassie up the road and say, "Oh man, here's wait to see this road up Sonic Time Attack," and then by the time you finished the first level, you turned round and she was out the door.
Right. On that sad note, I think we're going to move on to another fan game from the same kind of era, and this is a game called Neo Sonic 3.
Oh, yep.
This was another game that was quite kind of hyped at the time. You know, it was from a kind of well-respected developer, and you know it had these custom sprites which kind of took the fan gaming scene by storm. As Andy was alluding to, Jet Set Radio had come out, and it introduced people to the concept of cell shading, where like instead of a kind of realistic 3D renderer that would make kind of realistic looking colours and light and dark and shade, this instead had a kind of comic book sort of look where you had separate colours, and you usually also had like kind of bold dark outlines, so that would make 3D models look more kind of cartoony, I guess. So Jet Set Radio was one example. Zelda, what do you call it? Wind Waker, Zelda Wind Waker, that sort of thing. So that was a look that kind of captured people's imaginations at the time. And so Mike Burgess, also known as Manic Team, he created this game Neo Sonic 3, and he had his own kind of sprites that were inspired by that style.
Did you ever see his storyboard for Neo Sonic 3?
His storyboard? No, I didn't.
Right, I'll need to send you. It's quite funny, man. I'll put one of the pictures on the group chat.
Well, that's, Andy, that is like very, very bad radio. Paint a word picture. Tell us why it's funny, because the listener isn't going to get to see the group.
This is on video, so I'm going to put a link.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. And I should also point out, by the way, although this is going out live, it is not recorded live for two reasons. One, I don't know how to do it technically, and two, I don't trust myself or either of these two on live radio. They're going to say something horrendous at some point.
No, we nearly got into a discussion about Israel. I mean, that's very, very bad radio.
So Neo Sonic 3 storyboard, right? One of the I've actually put it on a group chat of us, as I said, but right, Neo Sonic 3 storyboard. So there is Tails, Super Sonic, and Knuckles the Echidna, who are watching on as a mysterious cloaked black figure with sort of two bat ears coming out. It's kind of shocking Amy to the point where she's dropped her hammer, and the sort of backdrop of a kind of Green Hill Zone apocalypse version.
Is it? Right, I'm going to say two things, right? For me, it's a wee bit Lynchian, right? There's a wee bit of David Lynch here, and also weirdly sexual.
I suppose if you look at it a certain way, I mean, I just see that as kind of a mysterious guy that's not been kind of revealed to us yet, that gets even more power than Super Sonic, apparently.
Well, I'm going to try and probably try and put you in the mental headspace.
I know, sorry, Matt Guy. Of course.
I'll try and put you in the mental headspace where I think that Manic Team / Mike Burgess was at the time of making this game. As you know, we probably all were in the kind of shared consciousness of the internet. So you're thinking Dragon Ball Z, you're thinking Mega Man, you're thinking that Evanescence song. You know, that wake me up inside. You're thinking Linkin Park. You know, these are the things that were in the kind of the zeitgeists at the time. So all these kind of ideas were floating about the internet and then being absorbed into the Jungian collective unconscious and kind of inspiring fan games.
It was a great time.
So this game. It starts off with like a pretty cool sort of animated intro, which was pretty accomplished for the time. I think Manic Team's art was pretty good. He had a kind of pretty unique art style, which was quite enjoyable. And you're being introduced to Sonic and maybe a slightly edgy storyline. I don't really remember the details, to be honest. The storyline isn't told very well. It's told by like journal entries when you save the game, which is an interesting choice. When the game saves, each chapter it kind of has like a little a little journal entry which Sonic or Knuckles has written, and I found the kind of voices of each character in these journals quite interesting, because Knuckles starts saying things like, the ancient prophecy, the crystals, the end of the world, what could this mean? And then Sonic's journal was like, I'm quite hungry.
Chili dogs.
Fancy a chili dog. But yeah, this game introduces some of the the furries, the OCs that we were all very fond of. This was a classic way of telling a Sonic story back in the day, that you would create your own characters, and then they would be even cooler than Sonic and Knuckles and Shadow, and they would the main characters would almost take a back seat to these ones. So you're introduced to Raystorm Nimbus, you're also introduced to Manic Lightspeed. And yeah, introduced to a baddie called Rage, who is explicitly described as being a terrorist. So I guess one of the other things that was on the cultural zeitgeist at the time was 9/11.
Post 9/11,
Post 9. This was a post 9/11 Sonic game with all the kind of paranoia and end of American Empire that entails. It's pretty heavy stuff.
Is Robotnik a terrorist? Because Sonic Adventure 2 was massive at the time in pop culture. So how the fuck did that fly? Because Robotnik's probably the biggest terrorist that Mobius has ever seen.
Robotnik is a fascist.
See, for me, this is. I mean, we're getting really fucking into the meta of Sonic and how we read the sacred texts. But for me, Robotnik is the fucking system, and Sonic is a terrorist. That's how I've always viewed these games.
Like a freedom fighter.
Look at the cartoons. That's that one where he's in a band and the mum's like they're looking for their long lost mum or whatever. And he's got his brother and sister and they're in a band. That's a fascist dystopia. And Sonic Underground. That's it. Aye.
One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, and is another man's guitarist hedgehog.
Aye, and Ground on Scratch are obviously fascist. They're obviously black shirts, aren't they?
Yeah, they're bootleggers.
Absolutely. I've maybe got a bit off course in describing this game. I'm maybe just adding in a lot of details that have just come out of my own head. But so this game is from a long time ago, to be honest. A lot of the enjoyment I get is really just from being around at that time and knowing what click team games are like, and knowing the limitations, and it was just quite enjoyable for me to revisit that and see some of the hallmarks of a classic click team game. So, for example, you're going to be stuck in walls quite a lot. You're going to have some levels which are kind of quite weirdly tiled and laid out. You're going to have sort of static backgrounds, none of your lovely parallax scrolling. You're going to have Sonic feeling at once very floaty but also very stiff, because whenever he runs and jumps and stops, he doesn't keep moving. He starts back again from zero. Feels absolutely nothing like Sonic, to be honest. And the levels resemble nothing like Sonic levels, but that's what people were working with at the time. So, I mean, gameplay wise, maybe not a whole lot to recommend this game, although one thing I did quite like, which we mentioned before, was this is a kind of SA2 era game. This really took the Sonic Extreme Sports thing on board and had a few interesting twists on the formula. So Sonic in this game, right, so at one point he's on a snowboard, at one point he's riding a dune buggy, and in another point he's got a custom kind of Jet Set Radio sprite. He's wearing kind of cool glasses, and he's doing that kind of grinding thing. The mechanic doesn't really work as well as it does in Sonic Time Attack, but there's a kind of a grinding system. So you can tell he's learned a few tricks out of the Click Team playbook.
Aye. I
mean, gameplay wise, not a whole lot to write home about. Maybe not as enjoyable as it was when we played it originally, but
that's what
I think it had a lot of heart, is what I would say.
When I played it, I had in my head, was Neo Sonic 3, it was one of the good ones from back in the day. When I played it, it looks quite of its time, and I guess that's probably makes sense. But is this the one that heavily features the badnik known as Buggernut?
I believe it does, yeah.
Aye, Black Mosquito, badnik for Sonic 3's Hydrozone. Or is it Hydro City? Hydrocity or Hydro City?
I'm going to call it Hydrocity because I know that annoys people, so I'm going to say Hydrocity.
I didn't realise it was like Hydro City until about a year ago, man. Hydro City. Hydrocity.
Yeah. But it's got a lot of heart, as I would say. You can tell a lot of love has been put into it. Mainly the Sonic campaign. You can play as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, but the Sonic campaign is about twice as long as all the other ones, with more levels and bosses, and the rest of them are a bit of an oversight. So I probably play as Sonic if you're going to get a bash. But yeah, it kind of spoke to me as a kind of a young creator. You know, I think we're kind of in similar places at the time. We were making these games. At the end of it, he thanks all of his 10th grade class, which implies he's probably about 15 when he made this game. And also thanks God, you know, like something that you would do if you were in the Oscars, which was quite sweet.
Can you throw up some Sonic Christian fan art on the screen?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sonic accepts Jesus Christ as his Lord and Saviour, of course.
Neo Sonic 3, fuck's sake. I'll get way back in time, man. Do you remember because this is Sage, we might as well bring back some memories. Sorry, Claudia, about this, but this is a pure brain fart for me, man. Do you remember the fucking Sage, I think it was about 2001, 2002, where instead of a website, right, and you click on booths, obviously hyperlinks, you were in a town, a Final Fantasy or Zelda style town, and every booth was basically a house, like a building, and you would go in, and when you entered the house on this click team game style thing, it would take you to a hyperlink on your browser where you would then download the demo.
Aye,
Do you remember that?
I kind of vaguely remember that, yeah.
That was
quite pretty inventive.
Innovative for its time, aye.
It was always a very exciting time for the whole community, and I think it still has been up until this day.
Aye, your mum shouting, "Your tea's ready. I'm not hungry," because you're going, because you're looking to play the new demo, Jamie Bailey's latest creation or whatever, you know.
Aye. So yeah, to sum it up, this was a wee kind of trip back in time for me, which I quite enjoyed, and yeah, I was quite enjoyed seeing just the kind of lineage of this game. I know, you know, even if it wasn't the best thing, it definitely inspired a lot of people, you know, to kind of pick up the hobby and probably create something amazing. Definitely inspired me because I released a demo called Sonic Nightmare, which used this exact sprite in some variations and had a kind of a similar art style.
If there's a downside, and this was something that sort of plagued a lot of LF Sonic fan games, I would say that because all the Badniks move at the same time, and they're like, they move at the same kind of, they all look as if they're joined to each other with a string because they all kind of move at the same time. They're not independent of each other.
It was like a path. You could set up a kind of movement path, and they would kind of follow like a wee picture.
Like Jackson 5, their movements were completely synchronised.
Perfectly choreographed.
The bugger not 5. But ring placement as well, man. It's as if he'd done it with his eyes shut, but that's another story.
Aye. Right, so we're going to be moving forward in time quite appropriately to a game called Sonic Chrono Adventures, which Mick has been playing for the first time.
Oh.
I gave this one to Mick, not because I'd actually played it, but I've played the two created by the same developer before it, like Feathered. He created Sonic before the sequel and Sonic after the sequel, which I think are, you know, most people probably wouldn't disagree that they are some of the most polished and most impressive Sonic fan games. And he tried to really just kind of build upon the classics in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and create something really polished and really fun. But with this one, although I've not actually played it, I was aware that he's tried to do something a bit different and maybe add in something a bit new, bring something a bit new to the table. So Mick, how'd you got on with Sonic Chrono Adventures?
So, as you were saying, this is a wee bit forward in time. This came out in 2011, I think. This was a surprise for me because I was like, right, okay, let's check it out. What they've actually tried to do is build a mechanic into Sonic known as Metroidvania.
Yeah.
You know, like Super Metroid or Metroid on the old Nintendo, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night, where you've got, rather than a linear structure of levels, you've got a big giant area to explore, and then you unlock new abilities which will in turn get you in new parts where you discover more of the story.
Yeah.
For instance, the first thing you find in Sonic Chrono Adventures, Sonic gets this cool kind of lightsaber type sword. He gets this energy sword thing, which you can use to chop at walls. And then you think, all right, I actually saw some of these walls earlier on, and you backtrack your way around, and then you can find out more about it. But to be honest, I've not got much fault with this game. Off the bat, I was impressed with the sprite work for starters. It looks as if the Sonic, anyway, isn't ripped for anywhere else.
Yeah.
It looks fucking cracker. And all the fucking badniks and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure everything's for scratch, including the levels. Well, one notable thing for me is that it marries together a lot of stuff that I would have found really fucking cool when I was a teenager. You get that Metroidvania style, which I just sort of started getting into. I liked these sort of games. Sonic, Shadow the Hedgehog particularly, I thought was very edgy and cool. And there's Chrono Trigger in there as well, which if you're a wee guy on the internet is the best thing ever.
I can continue in the long, proud tradition of Sonic fan games just blatantly stealing tunes from other games. This one's got a Chrono Trigger tune right off the bat.
To bring it into something else, it does also have an OC in it.
Yes.
Once you get... unfortunately, I didn't actually get to play through it to the end, although I would have liked to. I probably will go back and complete it. But you meet a green Sonic, basically, or a green hedgehog called Gerum, who has some kind of... He has significance with this fallen empire for the past, which the game is more kind of... You don't get an opening cutscene or anything like that. I think Sonic more or less is on his holidays at this place called Lake Island.
It's just like there's a wee kind of text box that says, Sonic's gone to this place that once was home of a great empire and he's going to check out some of its secrets. It's quite open-ended.
Aye.
I like the graphics in this game. I think the graphics are really nice.
They're very well done, like all custom, but they're all definitely Sonic. Like they've got they look as if they're from the same minds as the folk that made Sonic 2 and Sonic 3.
I like the way that they've made... I don't know what's happened to Floating Island 3, but they've got it in a big snow globe looking thing, like as if it's in a dome avoiding climate change.
It's not the Floating Island, man. It's Lake Island.
Ah, right, okay.
Different place. See, you just call it something different, and then you don't need to worry about people nitpicking.
It looks a very interesting game. I wonder what engine this is using, man, because it looks quite fluid to me.
Yeah, this is on the Sonic Worlds engine, which we've kind of sure people in the community are familiar with. But it was a kind of group effort, sort of open source project to sort of recreate the kind of Sonic engine in Multimedia Fusion. So I think like Vetbird is kind of amazing talent himself, but he's also kind of standing on the shoulders of giants of the people that developed this system, which allows you to make a game that plays very much like a classic Sonic game, and then he's built on top of that.
I think your dog needs a shite.
I know, can hear him whining in the background.
I know, he wants attention.
It really does play like a classic Sonic game. I mean, it's seamless. There's none of this fucking floaty shite with the fucking, sprite getting stuck halfway in the animation, halfway through a jump and getting stuck in walls and things like that. It's actually pretty tight. For me, the proof in the pudding was going to be whether or no Sonic and Sonic's abilities and everything that entails in a classic Sonic game would be conducive to a kind of Metroidvania style environment. And fucking by the way, it is. See if you build your world around that, it fucking works. And if your gameplay is tight enough, like as I said, you get a sword power up. When you use a sword, you can't do spin dash. And you kind of do that other thing, what is it, bone out or something like that, where you press up.
Aye.
Peel out.
Bendy legs.
Bendy legs, aye.
Elastic band legs.
So you hit A or whatever, and that switches between your classic Sonic controls and your sword Sonic controls. And I guess you get more power-ups to unlock different parts of the environment. I think there's one that lets them do a kind of space jump. They've all got their kind of strengths and weaknesses, but you switch between them pretty seamlessly. So as I say, I think building a fucking Metroidvania environment around Sonic, well, I mean, give this a go, man. This is a fucking hearty recommendation if you've never checked it out, because it works.
It seems to me like it's one of those ideas, like, you move like Sonic, but it's also a Metroidvania, which intuitively sounds amazing, but then once I kind of thought about it for a few minutes, I kind of thought about all the ways it could maybe go wrong. If the levels are kind of badly designed and you're zooming through them and you don't know where to go next. You know, it could be pretty frustrating, but he's managed to build this really well. I think I found it quite cool how he kind of signposts quite well, so you always know where you're headed to and like what's next. The level design is pretty clever, so you can kind of navigate the world pretty well without getting lost.
You also get, for anybody familiar with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and your wee pal Navi, who is constantly fucking giving you hints on what to do next, chiming in every fucking 2 seconds. In Sonic Chrono Adventure, you get a Navi-type companion. There is a tiny bug that sits on Sonic's forehead called Rhodolia, and who will chip in during cutscenes and stuff like that, but doesn't really bother you while you're playing the game. But say you've not played it for a wee while, you come back to your save file after a week or something, and you go, what am I doing again? You can press a button, and Rhodolia says, right, we need to go to the fucking upper left-hand corner of the map and find a fucking rip in space-time. And then you go, oh, aye, cool, I'll do that.
Aye, that's always a kind of welcome addition to these games. It's that kind of classic Metroid design where, you know, you're running through the level and you'll maybe see like some sort of barricade and you leave a wee mental note thinking, I'll maybe come back to that later when I get a new power, and then, you know, you get the sword and then it puts a few of those barricades in front of you and you can cut them down, and it's like, oh shit, so yeah, if I go back there then I'll be able to cut down that barrier. And it kind of just, you know, quite simple, you know, make that kind of level design that kind of guides you to where you want to go next.
Exactly. It's the exact same as something like Symphony of the Night, where there's a different type of war, and you're like, okay, right, mental note, I'm going to need to come back here. But yeah, it's fucking... I mean, the main point I want to stress here is that I have been fucking very, very impressed playing Sonic Chrono Adventures. I've got to admit, not to name any names, some of the games that I thought I was going to have to play, I thought, I don't want to trash anybody's games that they made when they were 12 or whatever, but fucking... This is a fucking cracker. Sincerely.
A lot of people would complain because Sonic's running backwards. Believe it or not, I know it's pure nitpicky, but a lot of people believe that Sonic should never be running backwards. But in a Metroidvania, you know, that's a kind of different spin on the whole kind of idea, man. I'm quite interested.
Was that a bit of a jibe at me talking about Knuckles Chaotix a few episodes where I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy that I was constantly running left.
You weren't happy. You weren't happy. That was the most unhappy I've ever heard you, man.
So you get to the end of an area, and all of a sudden Sonic will be standing in the middle of a compass, and then he'll turn round and it'll tell you you're now facing south. So you need to try and get your head wrapped around it, because obviously you can only either run left or right to the end of a stage, but in your head you need to encompass north, east, south and west as well. But you kind of pick it up, I think. You
know, like Fairfield has spent the past 2 games sort of like honing his formula of being able to create a game that's pretty much like Sonic. It's got kind of Sonic-esque level design and you know, pretty good challenging levels, and then he's kind of taken that a step further where he's, you know, joined these all together in a big interconnected world.
Honestly, you can make a full game out of this mechanic. It's fucking magic, and that is pretty much my final thoughts on it. That it's a recommendation. I know a lot of the Sage people listening are probably very familiar with it. For any of our usual listeners, fucking Google Sonic Chrono Adventures and download it, man, and get a bash. It's really good.
Aye. I'm going to be moving on to another game which came around about the same time, but also has a very similar time-based theme to it, which is Sonic Time Twisted. Shandy's going to be talking about.
Aye, so Sonic Time Twisted, it's not a million miles away from the previous game stylistically, but just to look at, I suppose. But in the Sonic fan gaming scene, it's kind of rare for a game to be finished. I mean, games usually go into development and then life takes over. People have kids, people have jobs, you know, and there's not much time for the blue blur in people's lives. But this is
Is that from personal experience?
well, aye. But this is a bit of an outlier, an anomaly, if you will, because this is a fully completed game.
Yep.
When you say fully completed, you know, in SRB2's case, or Sonic Roll Bass 2 case, that can mean a wide number of things, wide range of things. But this is a proper completed package.
Right, so tell us about it. What is Sonic Time Twisted? What's the idea? I take it it's not a Metroidvania. You meant more aesthetically it's similar to Sonic Chrono Adventures?
Well, this game, in that, it's polished, I suppose. It's basically just, if you're going to compare it to anything, it'd be Sonic CD. It takes a lot for Sonic CD.
So does the last one in that. Actually, I never mentioned it when I was talking about it, but you travel through time in it. I'm guessing they have that in common.
I suppose so, but this is merely a sort of straightforward platformer than a Metroidvania. Like, you know how in Sonic CD you can go to like the good past and the good future, bad past and bad future? Well, you've got that in this one, so you've got the same mechanic. If you've got a certain amount of momentum, you can shoot through to like the different versions of his own, which is quite cool. I suppose it's one of the better mechanics.
I'm a Sonic CD fan, to be honest. I like it.
Aye. The fact that they made the same zone and different concepts for it. I mean, usually the developers just bin those, didn't they? The ones they don't use, but Sonic CD found a way to incorporate even the cutting room floor stuff. And this sort of takes that to the next step, in that you have to actually collect things from the past and futures. So there's a thing called time stones that you must collect, and they're sort of just like Chaos Emeralds, man. It's the same sort of idea. Special stages and get time stones and stuff.
So you've got your you've got your standard from A to B, complete the level. But if you want to properly complete it in air quotes, you need to jump between different times, collect the time stones, and then finish your levels, and then finish your game. Sort of like collecting all the Chaos Emeralds in any of your classic Sonic games.
So if you want to get the good ending, that's another staple of Sonic. There's always a good ending, a bad ending, and sometimes an alright ending. But if you beat all special stages in each time zone, I think there's 7 in each. So again, you've got that kind of Sonic and Knuckles thing where you've got like 2 tiers. You've got to collect like Super Emeralds and then the Master Emerald type of things, time stones, in order to get a true ending. I think that if you look at a game and you look at the way it plays, a Sonic CD inspired fan game is probably the best way to describe it. You've got your even the themes of the levels are kind of the same. Now you get like Palm Tree Panic and stuff like that in Sonic CD.
Yeah.
You've got that sort of kind of same texture on the backgrounds and stuff. It looks very, very Sonic CD is what I'm trying to say, from the fidelity of the backgrounds and the sprites.
Everything's designed from scratch, I take it. It's no rips or anything like that.
It looks like it. Some of it does look like it's ripped. Like there's a zone called Frigid Fortress Zone.
Okay.
that would mean someone else in British English.
Well, there was a zone in Sonic Chrono Adventures called Newcastle Zone. Oi, man.
But there's a Frigid Fortress Zone, and it looks kind of like Sky Sanctuary Zone from Sonic 3. So it looks as if what they've done is they've ripped some of the assets from Sonic 3 and recoloured them.
There's a few things which I kind of caught my eye that I've seen in previous Sonic games. There's those little things from Oil Ocean Zone. That kind of fire you about the level, and a few things that definitely taken straight from other games. But I think the art style in this is brilliant. Like I loved it, to be honest. It's kind of very Sonic 3 Knuckles, but with its own kind of spin on it. What I liked were the kind of the parallax scrolling, like the kind of layers of backgrounds. You've got a lot where you're kind of orbiting these different planets, and there's like a big planet floating in the background, or like. With that one level where you're kind of in the past when this kind of big city's still under construction, You kind of see like these kind of big cranes in the background. They're building the place.
There's a lot happening in the game. Like, as you mentioned there, you see the big planet in the background and that zone I was talking about, Frigid Fortress. It kind of looks like Funkatron. See the background, like from Told You I'm an Arrow?
Yeah.
I remember just sitting looking at that and probably had a couple of joints, man, and I was like, oh my god. If you've seen the whole of Funkatron like, from the moon, then that's probably what it would look like. You've also got the ice cap. Did you play the ice cap level?
I completed it, mate.
Oh, I completed it. So you've got the ice cap featuring the snowboard, no less.
Oh yeah, of course.
I really enjoyed that, man. That's my favourite bit of Sonic 3 Knuckles, I think.
So this game, I would say it takes as much inspiration for Sonic 3 Knuckles as it does from Sonic CD, and it kind of builds on both of those things. So from Sonic CD, you've obviously got the time travel aspect. So you've got those pods that kind of move you between past and future. And what I actually thought was kind of clever decision is that like Sonic CD, you've got 4 different versions of each level, and this you've only got 2, past and future. Where if you think about it, when you were playing Sonic CD, did you ever see every version of every zone? Like you probably didn't. So two past and future is plenty, and it's always pretty cool kind of seeing how the graphical style and the level design changes when you move from one to the next. I'm not entirely sure how far in the past you might be going, because in one of the levels there's dinosaurs and then the others there's pirate ships, so just kind of like unspecified point in the past, but it's a pretty cool effect either way.
Yeah, well there's also 2 types of special stages. Obviously you need to collect the time stones from each part.
Time stones and chaos emeralds, weirdly enough, which I mean, in the future stages you get the chaos emeralds, in the past stages you get the time stones, which the metaphysical implications of that in the Sonic universe, I could talk about for hours. But anyway.
The special stages in this game, again we're talking about Sonic CD, very heavily inspired by Sonic CD special stages.
And the special stages are quite impressive. It's kind of like a Mode 7 sort of racing game, like kind of like a Super Mario Kart on the SNES or something, where it's like those kind of pseudo 3D backgrounds and you're racing Metal Sonic around.
It's like that catch a spaceship shit from
exactly like that. Sonic Mania.
Aye, the Sonic Mania.
It's a bit more straightforward than that, but it's kind of better, to be honest.
It's a wee bit of... Did you ever play Sonic 3D for the Saturn?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that as well.
What the Flicky's Island thing?
Aye.
In the Saturn version of that, there's like 3D polygonal special stages, because they had to kind of hastily add in something to justify the fact that you're buying it on the Saturn rather than on the Mega Drive.
I played the Mega Drive version and
well, the less said the better.
Aye.
Know what else this game's got in common with Sonic 3 Knuckles? I know, fuck you, we go Sonic 3 Knuckles out we're not, but
I could talk about Sonic 3 Knuckles for days on end, so this is more concise than we usually get from.
I can't believe you thought that this podcast wasn't going to fill up 2 hours. We're running way behind. Go for it.
Aye, so it's got a save screen. So basically, you can have how your Sonic 3 thing's got a save screen.
12 minutes to talk about this game and you have to spend time talking about the save screen. Come on, the fuck, man.
But it's got that in it, you know, so you can go back to the level you were last at and stuff. I found that pretty cool. I'm
going to use a phrase that Mick's fond of, because I really like this game and I think it's probably my favourite that I've played of the 9. I would say that this is perhaps the thinking man's Sonic fan game. For a few reasons I'm going to go into. One of which being, and I need to check if the people that developed this game are European, because Sonic moves like I remember him moving on the Mega Drive in 50Hz, rather than the Sonic Worlds engine, which is probably going to resemble the American games. So he's a wee bit slower, he's a wee bit kind of slower off the mark. So as well as Sonic being a bit slower, I think the levels are kind of they focus a lot on the those kind of what you would call gimmicks, which like the special features of each level. So if you think of like the last few stages of a Sonic level, there's usually interesting gadgets that are kind of maybe transporting Sonic about the level in interesting ways, or like doing strange things with the physics and stuff like that. This game focuses quite a lot on that, and I think he likes that. So it's maybe a bit it's a bit slower paced, but you've kind of get interest in momentum. You're trying to find your way around the levels and explore the levels. So it's quite kind of it's got that kind of vibe to it. I also like the fact that there's a kind of all the levels, and this is something that started in Sonic 3 Knuckles, like, you know, when you're moving from one level to the next, there's a kind of narrative, like, you kind of feel like you're in a real place, you know, what, or when Knuckles pulls this lever, he's dropped me down into the water, and then I'm in Hydrosity Zone, you know, like, the levels, they're not just levels, they've got a kind of interconnected, these kind of story interludes, and you kind of feel like you're going from place to place. So I like that about it. It's kind of united with this whole kind of sci-fi concept. You go, there's a kind of there's aliens, there's different planets and stuff like that. So it kind of all ties together. There's a lot to kind of think about. So that's the reason for that thesis.
What did you think of the new abilities, man? Like the windshield, rock shield, and ice shield. Did you see them?
The windshield, like, you know, when you're in your car.
Well, the windshield, I suppose.
Yes, it's quite cool. Like, kind of what I'm saying. He likes kind of exploring kind of different ways of using Sonic's momentum and stuff. You've got that kind of wind one where when you press double jump, you kind of keep floating along at the same speed as you were going before. There's another kind of ice one where, like, you can fire spikes out and stuff like that. It kind of takes that Sonic 3 Knuckles shield idea and kind of builds upon that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Final thoughts on Sonic Time Twisted? It's a recommendation, huge recommendation from me, by the way, if you're not Carol that.
As if you're into Sonic 3 Knuckles, which I'm not, by the way, I hate it.
In Sonic CD, he's got fucking time travel in it.
It's the ideal hybrid between Sonic CD and Sonic 3 Knuckles, reimagined. But also, let's not beat about the bush here. The most important aspect of this game is that it's complete.
Aye, yeah, that's always
what. I think Sonic Chrono Adventures was finished as well, was it not?
It was,
Aye.
yeah.
Aye.
But a few of the games we're playing here are demos. The next one actually is a demo, which a very short demo, so I'm going to try and see how long I can speak about it. Right, unlike the previous game, this game is not complete. It's actually incredibly short, but I'm maybe going to tie in a couple of related games, because there's 3 games that you would perhaps consider brothers, siblings, which I'm maybe going to talk briefly about. But this game, I think Andy's picked for historical reasons. It's Sonic Nexus, and the reason being is that this was perhaps the first outing of the retro engine, which was created by Taxman, who went on, of course, to make the incredible Sonic Mania. So while we were all pissing about as teenagers using these click-button programs, creating something that maybe vaguely, if you squinted at it, cross your eyes together, resembled a Sonic game, Taxman, he was on the hard stuff, he was on proper programming, you know, C++, and he was creating he was
on the hard stuff. And Greeno, that usually means smack, not C++. Like
it's an analogy.
Sorry.
Aye, so he was actually properly using the correct tools and trying to create something that almost certainly matched how a Sonic game would feel on the Mega Drive. He was trying to make pretty much like a one-to-one recreation of a Sonic game, you know, which would play exactly like a Sonic game would. Sonic would move pixel perfectly the way that he would in the Mega Drive, and if you close your eyes you would think you were playing an unreleased game from those days. So, you know, he was on a completely another level.
And the dream for most young boys in Scotland was to get signed for Celtic or Rangers in school, but the dream for the Sonic fan gamers was to get signed for Sega. And he lived the dream.
Yep, and it happened along with another developer, Stealth, who was doing a very similar thing, which I remember around the time. He was creating an engine called E02 and a game called Project Metrics, which was a very similar kind of deal, trying to recreate the physics and the graphics and everything from the ground up, from, I guess, Sonic 2. You know, you probably compare it to Sonic 2, but these were kind of happening around the same time. Another developer, Demizian, who went on to be a kind of main force of the Sonic Worlds engine, he was working on a game called Sonic Nexus, and he was kind of running up into the limitations of Games Factory, Multimedia Fusion. He was getting a lot of slowdown. You know, the game it was too ambitious for the platform. So he reached out to Taxman, who was making this engine, and he said, "Can I use this for a fan game?" And he was quite happy to do that. And he also helped out. He added some new features to it. And yeah, Sonic Nexus was the demo that came out of that. And I mean, it's maybe unfair talking about it after Time Twisted and Chrono Adventure, but these games probably wouldn't exist without this, and this kind of programming expertise would still be playing, things that resemble Neo Sonic 3. But there's not a whole lot to say about Sonic Nexus other than that it feels exactly like a Sonic game, like Sonic 2. It's a perfect recreation of it. The level design is really good as well as the programming, the art style, the placement, the multiple paths and stuff like that. It could be just a forgotten Sonic level, and yeah, it's perfect for that. Unfortunately, it's only it's only one level long. But definitely really impressive, and it kind of set the stage for everything else that would follow. The reason I said I'm talking about 3 games is that this is maybe a bit of an example of just how these things kind of go down, the kind of meta side of it, the interpersonal drama that maybe plagues some of these games. But the first game we had was a game called Retro Sonic, which Taxman was creating, which kind of formed the basis of the engine that would be Sonic Mania. And he kind of basically realised that I think he was more interested in the programming side, more interested in making some like port of the old Sonic games and creating something new. So he kind of abandoned that idea, and then he merged this project with Sonic Nexus, and there was another project around at the same time, Sonic XG, which had a really cool concept and style to it. It had a storyline that took place after Sonic 3 Knuckles. It had its own kind of Sonic sprite with his own kind of style, kind of inventory system, which was a bit new as well. But when you play that game after these games, it kind of doesn't really feel as good. You can tell right away that it's not really that perfect recreation of Sonic. He maybe doesn't jump high enough. He's maybe a bit too quick off the mark. There's something just not quite right about it.
It's a bit ski whiff.
Yeah, so they kind of realised that with the level design of Sonic Nexus, the engine of Retro Sonic, and the kind of concept and the art of Sonic XG, they could join forces and create something pretty amazing. So yeah, they announced that they were going to unite these projects together in a game which I think was called Retro Sonic Nexus. Yeah, that seemed like it was going to be a match made in heaven. Unfortunately, as these things go, you had 3 people from different parts of the world talking to each other, probably over AOL Messenger, probably with different ideas of what was going on, probably with jobs, college, girlfriends. Turns out that some of these people would just kind of go AWOL from the internet for a few months at a time, not talk to each other, and sadly the project just fell apart. Everyone fell out with each other, everyone hated each other, and the games kind of unfortunately were stuck in limbo for the rest of the time.
They became the Beatles.
Pretty much, yeah. So at least Sonic XG is now being worked on as a kind of John Lennon solo project. Although I guess Retro Sonic is the John Lennon of the one because it's no longer with us. But yeah, so they've gone their separate ways and they're kind of releasing their own games. But it was really cool to look at this and see just
Big up Mark Chapman. Hope you go out of the jail and kill the rest of the Beatles, big man. Thank God's work.
You killed the whole one. I don't know if that's staying in. The side that I
Keep
feel in the edit. But I don't know if I recommend playing it. I mean, they're all very short. There's not a whole lot to say about them, but definitely a kind of milestone in Sonic fan gaming. And I think we should probably move on to a much newer one, the newest one we've covered so far, Sonic Speed Course for Mick, which this is one which is very new, and we're kind of maybe bringing us back to the kind of current Sage era that we are supposed to be on this podcast talking about. I gave this to Mick on what I thought was a bit of a no-brainer because it is Kirby's Dream Course with Sonic in it, and Mick really likes Kirby's Dream Course, so yeah, go for it.
I've got a long, illustrious history of. I first found out about Kirby's Dream Course. I think they were playing it on that YouTube channel Game Grumps, and I watched them play it for a couple of episodes before I get sick of them as usual. And then I was like, there's something about this that's clicking with my brain. I need to play this. And it quickly became a go-to game for me, whereby if I was having a wee smoke, I could sit and fucking play Kirby's Dream Course for hours. But when I saw that's what this was, when I loaded it up, fucking already I was happy. I mean, for starters, Kirby's Dream Course, Kirby and Sonic are both characters that spend most of their time, arguably, as a boy. So it fits Sonic's wheelhouse as well as it does Kirby's.
I would argue that it maybe fits Sonic's wheelhouse a bit better because Sonic moves like a ball and also gets bounced around on springs, bumpers, pinball-esque sort
It
of
does,
features.
and in Kirby's Dream Course, Kirby kind of spin dashes, which when you move him anyway, he doesn't get hit by a cue. He just kind of rolls of his own volition.
Yeah.
But anyway,
If you're not familiar with it, it's mini golf, right? It's mini golf starring Kirby, or this one is mini golf starring Sonic.
you've got Crazy Golf, aye.
Crazy golf,
You've
aye.
got different sort of wee ramps and stuff like that, whereby in Kirby's Dream Course and Sonic Speed Course, the objective is just that you'll have a level, you'll have, in this case, badniks dotted around it, and you have to sort of putt Sonic at it, or rather than putting him, it's more like he's spin dashing,
Yeah.
but much like, I don't know if you've ever played a golf game, but you have to sort of determine what angle you're going to hit him at, and then how hard you're going to hit him. You can also do different sort of shots. You can like chip him and things
Yeah.
like that, or you can like dainty like curl him around. It's fucking very well programmed. It's fucking ace. It works really well. Kirby's Dream Course was basically 16-bit Crazy Golf, and this is just that, but maybe with like graphics that wouldn't look out of place somewhere on like the Saturn or something like that.
Yeah, it's got a very kind of charming, like low polygon 3D look about it. Sonic's got a lovely kind of low poly rendition of himself, a bit like the one in Sonic R.
Yeah, it looks fucking great, and all the badniks are really fucking faithfully represented in the same style.
Aye.
The stages have got that sort of classic, checkerboard pattern
Yeah.
that you associate with your fucking Sonic zones. So you basically just have that. The courses themselves are really fucking well designed. There's not that many of them, unfortunately. It's quite a short demo. As you sort of play them on a wee bit more, they incorporate more elements of Sonic into them, particularly springs.
Yeah.
So springing from sort of different parts of the level themselves. Whereas in Kirby's Dream Course, it was teleportation pads. Sonic, of course, you've got to use your fucking classic springs. Once you beat the demo, I think Creator was sort of alluding to the fact that a bigger and better version could be on the horizon where, you maybe smash those tellies and get different power-ups, and there's maybe going to be spikes in it and things like that, incorporate even more Sonic into this kind of Dream Course formula.
Aye, absolutely. So in the trailer video for this coming stage, there actually was a wee teaser of a new version of Sonic Speed Course, which is going to have, I think, multiple characters. You've seen a bit of Knuckles in there. You've seen some power-ups. Wonder potentially there might be a multiplayer mode, some more levels. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
This is, I'm fucking delighted to hear that there's going to be a fucking new version of it, actually, because my final thought was basically, I mean, this is my favourite one that I've played out of all the games for this. My final thought was just that if Sega fucking hired this person, got them on board, and made this into some kind of fucking mobile game, polished it up a tiny wee bit, added fucking, I don't know, a couple of hundred stages, different fucking pars for difficulty settings, and had like some kind of online leaderboard or something like that, I would play this on the toilet for fucking the next 3 years. It clicks with something in my head. I love Dream Course, and putting a Sonic skin over it and incorporating some of what Sonic can do into that fucking style of game works really, really fucking well. And it is a fucking sincere recommendation from me, and I am fucking buzzing to play the new version.
It's great to hear you so enthusiastic, man, about a Sonic fan game. I quite like that.
Here, listen, the Sonic Chrono Adventures I loved as well. I've been nothing but impressed with everything that I've checked out for this. Sage in general, as I've been saying, I'm a tourist in this kind of realm. I've been really fucking impressed with the work that goes into this stuff. I'm surprised. I thought they were maybe all going to be a wee bit like Knuckles versus the Pokemon, and I was the other one that I was supposed to play and spat a dummy out with because it was too shite. I've said everything I need to say about that particular fucking wee delightful game that I got to play. Did you take a shot at it? Have you got anything you want to?
I finished it as well. I mean, it's just same to me. It's a lovely wee thing, you know, the idea, loads of potential. You know, you imagine Sonic in that world and all the things that you could, the kind of twists you could add on sort of mini golf with the things for classic Sonic levels, and the potential of maybe making that kind of a multiplayer sort of party game, which is what Kirby's Dream Force really is. So I'm hoping it's not one of these games lost to limbo, which is the fate of many a fan game. You know, I'd love to see a full version of it. We're recording this before Sage starts, unfortunately, but Sage is now ongoing, and you should hopefully be able to check out the Sonic Speed Course 2020 demo right now.
Yep. That's my Sage recommendation for everybody listening. Get yourself to fucking Speed Course 2020.
Sonic Z Dream, and the reason I want to talk about this, or the reason I wanted Andy to talk about this, is it's one of these dark and strange corners of Sonic lore that I know Andy was a bit familiar with. The infamous unreleased Sega Saturn Sonic game, which you could possibly argue is the reason that the Sega Saturn was a bit of a failure as a console, was it did not have a mainline Sonic game, but it was supposed to have a game called Sonic Extreme. And this demo was made incredibly programmed on the notoriously difficult to program for Sega Saturn, but it's meant to be a bit of an attempt to recreate Sonic Extreme. So Andy has been the only person of the three of us who actually owns a Sega Saturn and has some dark sorcery that allows him to play bootleg games. Downloaded this and gave it a go. So how did you go on with it?
So Sonic I'll just give a bit of backstory. Sonic Extreme was the planned 32-bit answer to Mario 64. Essentially, it was meant to be Sonic's first foray into a 3D environment. We got to see some aspects of a 3D environment on a Saturn, like the wee level in Sonic Jam and stuff. But there's a wild story about Sonic Extreme's development. And to boil it down into simple terms, the Saturn just wasn't technically competent to handle.
It was never meant to be a 3D console so much. It was like it was meant to be the sort of the best 2D experience possible. It was meant to recreate these amazing 2D arcade games that Sega was coming out with. But then of course the PlayStation arrived and it was wowing everyone with polygons, and folk thought, fuck, we have to start making polygonal 3D games on Saturn.
So this was the original Sonic Drought, and like Lee Griffiths in a Scotland jersey, it sort of eludes us to this day. Now, this game here tries to recreate what Sonic Extreme would actually been like, to an extent, I'd imagine. Now, the demo is quite bare bones, but it gives you a green hill zone with sort of rough movement and assets that are shown in various prototypes of Sonic Extreme. So it's like a good wee kind of example of what it might have looked like, you know. As I said, there's not much there. it's just very impressive that they got it running on the Saturn, because the Saturn is very well known for being difficult to program for. And the fact that they've got this running and they've managed to create their own 3D models, they've managed to make collision detection on badniks and create their own badniks, fine. They've incorporated a new thing that's like a double jump, because it's quite platforming heavy. Sonic Extreme was supposed to be quite slow paced compared to other Sonic games. So it's all there. And I suppose what this demonstrates is that if someone wanted to go down the sort of SRB2 road, the Sonic Robo Blast 2 road, and do something a bit different that's not like a 2D Sonic Worlds game or a 3D kind of Sonic Utopia game, they could actually go into like a sort of ROM hacking way of creating a new game, I suppose, but not a ROM hack, because you know what I'm saying, you can build a game that's
build a game that you can play on the original console, yeah.
Rather than the x86 platform, they could make it on a console instead.
So this is an area of kind of fan gaming which is which I've noticed there's a bit of a trend in doing, is that revisiting these kind of Sonic games that maybe didn't get a whole lot of love back in the day, and maybe try and revitalise them. So I actually played and completed a Sonic fan game I can't remember the name of the developer, unfortunately, but it's a remake of Sonic 1 on the Game Gear and Master System. And playing that game, the only real difference, there's a few kind of bells and whistles added onto it, but the main difference is that it's a bigger screen resolution, and you're not playing it in through a fucking keyhole like you would have been in the Game Gear, where you can barely see ahead of you. And just that change makes the game so much better. It's a pretty good platformer when you remove that limitation, and it's a lot less frustrating to play it when you can kind of see all around it. So just that kind of small enhancements lets you maybe see what the game could have been, without the limitations at the time. So that's what Sonic Zed Train is doing, and there's been a few other games with kind of similar kind of concepts. I know that there's also a recent trend of making remastered versions of the Sonic Advance games. I believe there's a Sonic Advance 4 Advanced is coming out June Sage, which is, as I say, a remake of Sonic Advance 4, which wasn't very good, but kind of with a few added bells and whistles and out on the PC, and maybe it turns out that there actually was something worth playing in there.
Oh, was there a Sonic Advance 4, aye?
They made loads of those games. They weren't very good, to be honest. The first one kind of wowed people, but then you realise there actually wasn't very much substance to it.
I liked the first one because it was something different at the time, and it was the same company that made Sonic Pocket Adventure. They were quite good at making Sonic games, Dimps they were called. Yeah. But then they made the fucking abomination that was Sonic 4, and I've never fucking forgive them. Never will.
When Sonic 4 first came out, we were drunk enough to think that it was okay.
Aye. But it doesn't play like a Sonic game, I realise that now.
Well, we were absolutely leathered, and we were like, oh man, this is like Green Hill Zone, look at it, it's like fucking 2.5D and that, oh, he's got stuck in a wall, never mind.
Aye, we didn't realise we were just getting fucking a mobile game flung at us. We fucking bastardised, man.
The Sonic team just swiftly forgot about that one. I think there's a part 1 and a part... Yeah, part 1 and a part 2, I don't even know if it was a part 2, and then it was just kind of swiftly
It was episodic, man, so they brought out, it had no continuity for the story or nothing, but see if they just waited 2 years, man, till fucking Taxman and Stealth finished Sonic Mania, they could have called Sonic Mania Sonic 4. Right, so anyways, it's a good demo of, it's not even a demo, it's more like, do you remember a lib?
Proof of concept.
Do you remember a lib from the early days? A lib was basically a library of sprites, of assets, of things you could pick, tiles and stuff you could choose for your own game. It was called a lib, and it basically had selections of levels and stuff like that you could then use to rearrange for yourself. So it's more like a lib than a demo, I would say.
I actually made one of those back in the day, and I submitted it to the system, and then Arlan, who was in charge of SFGs at the time, says, I'm not going to accept this because all you've done is take other people's sprites and change them colours. It's
that's what everybody was doing.
So I didn't really have any art skills to call my own, so that's what that was. I just wanted to kind of talk a wee bit about Sonic Extreme, like, you know, you're probably more familiar with it than I am. So this is around about the time, right, when, you know, I guess Mario 64 had come out, but like the rulebook hadn't really been written for 3D platformers. Like, people didn't really know what a platformer was going to look like in 3D. Like, you had Crash Bandicoot, which kind of was kind of on rails.
But Bubsy came out and everybody else was like, whoa, like, what are we going to do to match this? Like, yeah.
Bubsy's in 3008 and we are fucking 2008.
Bubsy's a good example to have, if you're going to make a spectrum, right, of first generation 3D platformers. You can have Mario 64 at one side of the spectrum, and you can have Bubsy 3D at the other. I think maybe Sonic team are just a bit maybe worried that they might have...
Is this
Bubsy side?
Bubsy being perfect, Mario 64 being snidey?
Pretty much, aye. Pretty much, but so anywhere in between there, you know, you had all your 3D platformers. Like, as you mentioned, Crash Bandicoot was up near the Mario side, but there's a very high chance that if Sonic Extreme get released with that fisheye lens and slow gameplay, that people might perceive it as closer to the Bubsy neck of the woods.
Aye, that was the kind of like the thing that struck out to me, is that they decided to put in this kind of fisheye camera. Like, the whole thing looks like a fucking skating video for some reason. I think they were trying to like squeeze more of the world into your kind of your vision, but it's a weird kind of it's just gives it a weird kind of psychedelic sort of like trippy feel.
The way the worlds were built were not unlike like Toe Jam and Earl. Like the plane was like floating in air. It basically just built it with like blocks. And if you fell off, then you fell off the map type of thing, and it was... So
it's not like a kind of continuous world, it's just this weird kind of floating place.
And the world, I think, is there no sort of aspect where the world rotates around the model and not the... I don't know, man. But basically...
technically, but yeah, that does ring a bell.
They were also not using a 3D model, they were using a sprite.
Aye, kind of moving the world around them. Aye, yes. I mean, they were doing the best of what they had. You know, on the Sega Saturn was pretty limited capabilities.
The tech wasn't there. The tech wasn't ready for a 3D Sonic game. That's why like, Sonic Adventure uses the same engine that was. I think it's see the engine that's in Sonic Jam. That was made by a different team from Sonic Extreme, and they ended up going with that one. That then evolved into the Sonic Adventure engine. So eventually the Sonic Extreme idea just gets scrapped completely. And then they tried, Sega being Sega in 1990s, what they done was they tried to sell fucking Sonic 3D Blast under the pretense that this is a new 3D Sonic game. And it was just a port of a fucking Genesis game.
Yeah, it was actually just kind of a gutted up version of the Mega Drive one, which wasn't very good to begin with.
But the soundtrack in it was to die for. And I believe that maybe that soundtrack was for Sonic Extreme. Very, very good soundtrack. Also, the special stages, they might have been they could have been part of Sonic Extreme as well. I remember they just threw them in as a sort of shoehorned addition. But, come on man, people will tell you that Sonic 3D Blast is a main title in the Sonic series. But you're fucking telling me that it's not just a spin-off.
Well, I mean, if you really want to get into a fight about it, in my opinion... Nothing about Sonic makes sense without Flicky's Island. It is the linchpin in the Sonic canon. If you've studied the sacred texts properly, you'll realise that Flicky's Island is it's almost like a cipher to read the other Sonic games with.
It's like James Joyce, man. You have to put the effort in to, you know.
It's a brain fart, man. Right, okay, what other Sega
No, I'm with McCormick. It's Finnegan's Wake. It's not a cipher. It's the Finnegan's Wake of Sonic games.
Actually, there is a kind of Sonic fan games related point where I kind of mentioned that, you know, developers are kind of going back in time and trying to revitalise these old concepts. So the guy who was the head of Traveller's Tales, John Burton, the lead programmer, he was the main developer of Sonic 3D, and he is actually just, I think this year or last year, released a director's cut where he's put in all the features of the game that he wanted to include but couldn't at the time, and he's re-released it on the Mega Drive. So that might be worth checking out. Is it going to salvage Sonic 3D as a game? Is it going to make it good? Possibly
he's released it on the fucking Mega Drive? What, like in Brazil?
No, I think it's like a ROM you can probably flash onto the port.
Sorry, okay.
You know, it's like I was going like guys, commercial suicide there, like trying to found a company and base it off releasing the game for a console that's been dead for 20 odd years. This guy was like probably one of the most capable Mega Drive programmers. He did some things that the Mega Drive kind of people didn't think would be capable of, but unfortunately some of the games they ended up working on didn't end up being very good.
Is this the fella that made that fucking thing in like The Lion King or Mickey Mania, was it, where the fucking moose is chasing you or something like that?
Aye, yeah, he made Mickey Mania. He made I think Toy Story. He made the Toy Story Mega Drive game, which
Mickey Mania is fucking class, by the way.
That's
Yeah.
the best one.
no, the kind of coding in those games is really impressive. Some really cool effects. Right, guys. So this conversation's we're out at sea. Right, we're in the middle of the Atlantic
Right,
Ocean.
okay,
We're going to
let's
try
bring
and
it
pull it back. So Sonic Z Dream, interesting proof of concept. To tie it back to Sage, there is actually a new project coming out, which you're going to be able to see Sage 2020, which by the magic of recording is right now. That is Sonic Extreme Unity, I believe it's called, and that is an attempt at a remake of Sonic Extreme for the PC, based on, I guess, the videos and the prototypes and the demos that we've seen so far. So I check that out if you're interested in this weird, lost, early 3D game.
So this doesn't run the Saturn, this one, no?
No, this is it's made in Unity, which pretty much all your big professional games are made in, well, at least a lot of them. So I checked that one out, and also another game which is developed in Unity, which I've been playing, is called Project Hero. And this, I mean, not even the demo is just an engine test, but I thought it was worth talking about because it's amazing, and I love it, and it's incredibly impressive.
I think I've played this one, eh?
I'll kind of go back to a bit of an obsession of mine, which I've kind of possibly talked about in earlier episodes, right? So Sonic, as we kind of talked about with Sonic Extreme, right? They didn't really know what to do with Sonic. You know, when 3D arrived, they had this amazing sort of beautiful fluid platforming that Sonic could do in 2D, and it's like, how do we translate that experience into 3D? And what we ended up with seems to me kind of like a bit of a compromise. You know, we ended up with Sonic Adventure, which kind of formed the template for every 3D Sonic game going forward, and that template is pretty much a roller coaster, right? So in a lot of these Sonic games, if you press jump at the right time, you can effectively hold in, up, blast through the entire level. It kind of plays itself, it kind of controls itself. He's kind of moving around about these loops pretty much on a fixed path, round corners, zooming through baddies. There's not really any of what made Sonic, the 2D Sonic games, good in my...
I'd say perhaps Sonic Adventure had some platforming, but after that, you're right, it just turned into like a blow.
There's been less and less of it, I think, over the years. So what Project Hero is it's a 3D Sonic engine, which is going to become hopefully a full game in the future, which is a bit of a new take of how to play Sonic in 3D. And this, I can say, hand on heart, feels better than any 3D Sonic game that Sega have ever put out. It kind of combines elements of the more modern Sonic games, but also the classics as well. So you're kind of running about in a 3D space, and you're running up kind of half pipes and loops and stuff like that. But you're always in control, and there's always momentum, and there's always kind of the physics of the game. Basically means that it's just really, really enjoyable to kind of run up and down half pipes and kind of gain speed, roll about, and you kind of feel a lot more like you're playing, you know, Sonic 3 or something, where you're thinking more about how fast I need to approach this jump so that I can land on this platform, or like, how am I going to tackle this environment, rather than just, okay, I'm going to run to the start of the loop and then the game is going to take over.
Does it feel a wee bit like Mario 64 in that respect then? Like a Mario, game?
I think if Sonic Team had kind of learned the lessons of what made Mario 64 good and applied that to Sonic, then this is what you would come out with. My kind of hot take about Sonic is that everyone thinks it's about speed when it's actually about momentum. Things like, you know, rolling down hills makes you go faster. You can't run up a wall unless you're going fast enough. Like, that is the bread and butter of what you're doing when you're playing a Sonic game. And this manages to make that work in 3D. And it feels great, and I really want there to be a full game of it. It's a very bare bones kind of engine test. It's just a kind of big checkerboard world, but it's already quite a lot in it. Knuckles, Tails and Sonic are playable in it. They all feel a bit different from each other. They've all got kind of unique elements. Tails obviously can fly, but he's also got a feature from the Game Gear games where he likes throwing bombs around. For some reason, Tails fucking loves it. He's a bit of a bomb throwing anarchist.
That game is good, by the way.
What is that called again?
I think it might just be Tails Adventure.
Tails Adventure, aye. You get elements of that. Tails can kind of fling these bombs around at an arc and then kind of set them to explode at certain times, and that's fun, just throwing these around and destroy bandits. Knuckles has got his classic glide and climb, and feels pretty satisfying. You can climb about this 3D world. And
I mean, I think the bomb thing with Tails is it's good to have something that differentiates Tails without putting him in a mech in a really fucking boring level that doesn't really work.
Aye, because I think that Sonic Adventure, the first one, it was quite good at like, okay, all these characters control like they're in a Sonic game, but they've also got unique twists on them. Like E102's got his kind of gun, Amy's got his hammer and stuff like that. Whereas Sonic Adventure 2 was just like, these are pretty much just 3 different games that we've kind of rammed together. But this one, they do all kind of feel like Sonic 3 Knuckles and like Sonic Adventure 1, they feel like Sonic characters but with a unique twist on them. Knuckles, from the classic games, he's glide and he's climb, but he's also got his this kind of satisfying 3-punch and kick combo, which you've seen in the Sonic Advance games.
It's like when I was playing through Sonic Mania with Sam, we were taking sort of shots each, or playing through it kind of concurrently, and he was playing it as Tails.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting watching him play it a couple of times, and in my head going, "What are you doing? Like this is not how you fucking play a Sonic game." He would play as Tails and constantly stop and try and fly up and look for secrets, like fucking hidden in the level. And I was like, I play as fucking Sonic, just try to fucking battle through the level as fast as I can, fucking hitting everything head on. So I like those options there, because not everybody tackles a fucking problem in the same way.
Yeah.
And if you can, I mean, that's been something in gaming for a while, but you can certainly apply it to Sonic games. Like, why not?
Yeah, I like that, and it's definitely promising for the full game. If they take advantage of that, if they design levels where Sonic is one way through the level that kind of works for him, but Tails can maybe fly up and do something a bit different. So it reminded me of Mario 64 in ways like that, but also like other 3D games that aren't maybe necessarily platformers. Like if you remember, like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, right? So that's not a platformer, but it is 3D. And when you're playing Tony Hawk's, you're kind of thinking, right, okay, how do I get up to that bit? Like, how do I what path do I take to get the momentum so I can jump high enough to get over there, and then that will allow me to access this part of the level and do this. Like, that's kind of what you're thinking when you're playing this game. And also, like, I don't know if you ever played the Trackmania games. Those are like 3D racing games on the PC, but you're kind of racing through these big fantastical places, kind of like those big ramps and loop-de-loops, but you've got to know like what angle to tackle the loop at, kind of bank up the side, and to get where you're going and get going in the fastest way. And this kind of adds all these elements into your kind of Sonic formula. So I think if they manage to pull it off with a proper game with these elements, then it could be pretty incredible. So yeah, that's not a whole lot much more to say, but play Project Hero. I spent far more time than I thought I would with it, despite the fact that there's no actual goal. It's just fun to kick about.
I'll definitely be getting that a bash as well. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, and get a go with a controller. I'd recommend playing it with a controller. It's designed for an Xbox 360 controller, which I have. And yeah, it's cool.
I've got one of your Xbox 360 controllers lying in a box somewhere in my gaff.
Yeah, that'll do it. That's one on me. Right, so I think this is going to take us on to our final game, and as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, it's the first time that I've ever given a game to someone that I made, or at least half made, because this game is Knuckles versus the Pokemon, created by the dynamic duo of, I think, 13-year-olds Sly and Rex, in around 2003, I think.
2002, man.
2002? Yeah.
Aye.
So yeah, I think I would have been about 13 or 14 at the time, and me and a friend of mine, Brian, who we're going to refer to as Sly for the rest of the episode, created this game called Knuckles versus the Pokemon. And Sly was kind of mostly in charge of the art. I was mostly in charge of the coding.
Who wrote it? Is what I want to know. Who wrote
The
this?
dialogue of the game, that was mostly Sly, because I think you've got some choice thoughts.
This is where most of my contention comes from.
Right.
But sorry, continue.
Yeah, so it's, to be honest, like that you could consider this an interview with the developer, but I barely remember making this game 17 years ago. It's almost as surprising for you to play it, for me to play it, as it is for you to. But I thought it was only fitting, talking about Sonic fan games, that we had to cover my crowning achievement in the Sonic fan game scene. So yeah, take it away, Mick. How did you find Knuckles versus the Pokemon?
I mean, what is there to say about a timeless classic like Knuckles versus the Pokemon? Listeners, particularly our listeners at Sage, for any of you that are still with us, all two of you, who am I kidding, zero, you will be well aware of Knuckles versus the Pokemon as a juggernaut in the scene. The soundtrack, this is a hot take / prediction for yous. I think the MIDI file is well overdue a comeback.
Yes.
Aye, so you know what, you had that genre of music that was quite popular a few years ago, Vaporwave, which was like, it took a lot of samples of like, you know, old tunes from the 80s and like tunes that might play in supermarkets and that, and kind of added a kind of ironic twist to it. I feel like there's an ironic sort of comeback of MIDI just around the corner.
MIDI wave, boom, bank it,
Absolutely.
we just invented it.
Somebody somebody took like Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells and made a fucking perfect version. It's fucking in a MIDI and Cakewalk or something.
What a way to spend your life.
Within Knuckles versus the Pokemon, the midis are various. We have the Mortal Kombat theme.
Yep.
We have Danny Elfman's theme tune for The Simpsons. We have Indiana Jones.
Beverly Hills 90210.
Madness.
The music of Madness, yep. The Terminator theme is a recurrent one. The theme from Halloween, whenever the nefarious Dark Lord appears. So, basically what happens is Pikachu, who in this world is some kind of unscrupulous mercenary,
Yep.
he steals something called the Moon Emerald. So Pikachu has stolen the Moon Emerald, and then we join Knuckles in his house. He's playing a PlayStation, because I don't know why he is.
I think this game, we're maybe trying to take a bit of an arch look at the Sonic community. We just thought it'd be funny to have Sonic playing a Sony console in a ostensibly Sega themed game.
So Knuckles is playing his PlayStation. He goes outside. Tails runs up to him, tells him, "Fucking the Moon Emerald's only fucking been stolen." You go and investigate the scene.
Why does Knuckles not say, "What's that?"
You move Knuckles over with the arrow key, and he picks up a piece of yellow fur. And then they go, we need to investigate this further. So you take it to your professors. Basically, using the cursor, you move Knuckles around a field from A to B. The main thing that sets this apart as kind of no being just a walking simulator is, in the demo at least, there are 2 boss fights. And I've got to admit, see for something you programmed when you were fucking 12-year-old or whatever, they're actually no bad. Like, making the shift key your main fucking attack button, cardinal sin for me. You're going to get those sticky keys fucking rattling.
That was the default in Click Team, so you couldn't really change that, unfortunately.
I had to go in and disable that. But the first boss fight involves you fighting. In the cutscene, there are 3 Metal Sonics, but and when you fight them, there are only 2, but whatever.
Continuity error there.
You fight 2 Metal Sonics, and I was running about just trying to biff them when Knuckles has got a punch attack. But actually, there are these 3 big kind of, I think they're supposed to be boulders. They're these big brown balls, and you're actually supposed to run over and punch one of them. It sets it ricocheting about, and that'll hit half the Metal Sonics and do in their HP. Now,
Right.
execution-wise, it's fucking sloppy, do you know what I mean? It was made by 12-year-olds. But, fucking, conceptually, that's not a fucking bad boss fight, is it?
Nah,
I think we kind of maybe kind of made up for a lack of ability with imagination and a few of those things. We tried to have that. I always liked bosses where you had to figure out some sort of trick in order to beat him, and that's what we kind of try to go for the bosses in this game.
You can see that with the second boss fight that's in the game as well, where Knuckles somehow gets a turret. It doesn't matter how he gets it, but Knuckles in a turret, and you have to destroy 2 cannons at either side of the boss that are like shooting projectiles at you, and then you run up and use I think it's Hadouken from Street Fighter. You Hadouken the baddie to death.
And that's actually a voice. That's actually a voice recording from 12-year-old Sly, isn't it?
Really?
No, it's not. It's a wave file from Worms 2.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because I had that in the audio, but that was just kind of raw data. So, you get the Hadouken move in Worms. So I just took the audio from that.
I mean, I've got a few questions. Again, it mostly relates, as I say, gameplay-wise, you're mostly a Knuckles sprite running from A to B, and then cutscenes play. You get a couple of these boss fights, which, as I say, are, when you put them into the context of who made it and when they made it, are actually kind of cool. You play them now, you're like, what the fuck is this? But when you contextualise them like that, they're kind of good, okay?
Aye.
But
So, like in terms of gameplay, I kind of mentioned before that when you were trying to create a platformer in these old click team engines using that kind of default platform movement, didn't feel very good. We didn't have the ability to make anything resembling a good platformer, so I think the compromise was that we would make a game where you kind of top-down Zelda kind of movement,
yeah,
which you could also do in click team and was marginally less shit than the platformer physics, and you didn't have to worry about physics and getting stuck in walls and creating levels that made sense. So yeah, we decided quite early on it was just going to be a kind of top-down sort of game.
so my questions are mostly relating to lore. One of mine's is, well, here, I'll kick off with this, which is inarguably the most offensive scene in the game, where
It was a long time ago.
Knuckles destroys some robots and ascends into heaven, where he appears to have a conversation with Mahatma Gandhi, who sort of gives Knuckles the next plot MacGuffin to go on to. But bizarrely, Knuckles decides to start high-roading Gandhi about world peace and British colonialism. Two things which, I mean, Gandhi's got his demons, he's certainly not a perfect figure, but if we were looking at him and what he stands for, probably against British colonialism and for world peace.
One of the main notable things about Gandhi is that he really didn't like British
Can I just
colonialism.
ask, since when did Gandhi become a fat white guy with a Japanese bandana?
Yes, well, he's not portrayed very well either, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the sprite work maybe left something a bit to be desired. That one was not
so-
faithful recreation of him.
Can I ask a little bit about the creative decision that yourself and Sly took, where you thought, let's put an Indian civil rights hero in our game and have Knuckles berate him about pretty much a parochial issue for us?
Scottish independence, aye.
I'm not sure I can really particularly.
He's sweating here. He's in the hot seat. You're getting cancelled.
This is a time when Scottish independence was like half the agenda because of New Labour and that. So
It's not well. So I don't know why I think we're looking, I guess, for some sort of like generic, like a guru, like a kind of a Mr. Miyagi sort of figure that would teach Knuckles this the Hadouken move from Street Fighter. I'm not entirely sure why we settled on Mahatma Gandhi, who's famous for his non-violence, to teach you a move where you might burn somebody's face off. Yeah, a bit of an odd choice all around. I'm going to say that every problematic thing in this came from the mind of Sly, but that's probably evading the blame.
I mean, that's the only scene in it that's problematic. Otherwise, they meet a ghost and things like that. It's fairly harmless.
I guess we were just kind of reaching for like Eastern mystical kind of vibes, and somehow we landed on Gandhi instead of, I guess, the Buddha, which he kind of resembles the Buddha.
I mean, it's fine just to say that you were 12 years old and racist. Like, that's okay.
I don't even want to say that, man. I don't want to admit that. I was 12 years old and naive, let's put it that way.
Okay, right. Wider lore questions. The Dark Lord, who we'll come on to in a second, he has Pikachu steal something called the Moon Emerald.
Yeah.
Now, in some exposition, we learn that Pokemon World and Mobius, aka Sonic World,
Yep.
were once one and the same, but there was an incident causing a dimensional rift, and now they are on separate planes of existence. However, if you collect 10 Mobius rings and you have the Moon Emerald, you can travel betwixt them. What is the ultimate goal of Dark Lord? Because we didn't get to figure that out. What is his MO? Why does he want to travel from Pokemon World to Sonic World?
So I think he has effectively conquered one dimension, and
So he's become Lord of the Pokemon.
he has, yeah, and you know, like Alexander, who wept for there were no more worlds to conquer. He done the same thing, and then he decided he was going to reach out to other dimensions and take those over as well. I was kind of inspired by Sonic the comic, the British Sonic the comic, which is the superior Sonic the comic.
Fuck Archie.
But yeah,
Aye, it's not like Ken Pendle's kind of borderline.
Fuck Ken Pendle.
Ken Pendles. Just as an aside, by the way, go and read this Medium article that has like a compendium of problematic Ken Pendle stories. It is a fucking trip. It's amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah, he's got that one where he like kind of alludes to the Holocaust. Or
Yes.
If you think Knuckles versus the Pokemon is problematic, then yeah. But aye, so Sonic the comic around about that time had built up this kind of lore about like the emeralds and the special stages and stuff like that, which pure like fascinated me. There was an idea that you could kind of, the special stage was this kind of space like between dimensions that kind of linked these different worlds together. I think also in that game Sonic Thirdscape had a similar concept, and I like that idea of like the emeralds giving you this power to like go between dimensions and go between the Sonic dimension and the Sonic the comic influence also comes up with the character of Professor Zachary, who was
Professor Zachary, that's it.
Echidna scientist that appeared in the British Sonic the comics. And I don't think many fan games ever referenced.
So, which
often.
sect of the Echidnas was Professor Zachary from exactly? Was he from like the?
What are you saying? What there's a kind of Shia Sunni split in the Echidnas?
Sure
I wasn't aware of those doctrinal differences.
There was a Echidna civil war of I don't know, depends what timeline you look at. Anyways, I'll just leave that there.
But it wasn't one of the Echidnas that supported slavery, if that's what you're asking.
Aye. Well, he was obviously the enlightened Echidna sect because he got education, became a scientist.
Yeah.
So he's part of the bourgeoisie.
He's part of the Echidna bourgeoisie, so yeah. The working class Echidna have violently overthrew him subsequent episodes later. I don't remember any of the story really from Sonic the comic, by the way. I'm making this up.
Does our own planet, sorry Andy, I've still got lore questions. Does our own planet, given that the political situation in the United Kingdom and Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, and the music of John Carpenter and Madness and Danny Elfman, among others, appear within Knuckles vs. the Pokemon, does that suggest that our own dimension is also part of the same dimension as Pokemon World and Sonic World?
I'm going to say yes, because Knuckles, for some reason, seems to be really invested in the cause of Scottish independence, which if he had never visited or heard of Earth, then he wouldn't really particularly care about. This is another sly one, by the way. I wasn't super.
Hey, sly one! I like that.
Yeah, I think my politics were still kind of forming at the time, but he was a big SNP guy at the time, so he wrote Knuckles to be a big fan of an independent Scotland.
I mean, Knuckles is kind of an ethno-nationalist.
Keep floating island for the Echidnas, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Aye.
My last question, just on the lore of this rich, complex demo of a game, is who is the Dark Lord?
Right, so I don't think I have a particularly satisfying answer to this. I can remember some snippets. If you go on the Internet Archive, to a kind of earlier version of slypix.homestead.com, which was Sly's personal website. He has an image of the Dark Lord with his hood off to reveal this kind of orange and yellow dragon. And my memory's a bit hazy on this, but another weird obsession of Sly's at the time was like some French cartoon about dinosaurs, and this character was a character from that. Yeah, he was revealed to be from a different world entirely.
There you go, Motobog, that one's for you.
Another cartoon dimension. I've tried in the past to find out what this cartoon is called. It seems to possibly exist only in Sly's imagination.
I'll find it.
Yeah, we'll try and find it. If we can find it, we'll maybe put it up on the video.
For another day.
The story of this game is I don't know if we really had like a kind of full story plotted out. Like if you play it, it just kind of jumps from one scene to the next. Like one scene that we kind of thought that was funny, like Sonic beating Gandhi or meeting a sad ghost. Was it supposed to be
anti-Pokemon?
Aye, yeah, this was the kind of main theme of the game. And like, I guess that kind of classic thing of like, if you're a young kid, right, and then you get a little bit older, you look back on something that you thought was cool a few years ago and you cringe and you think that's for babies, it's horrible. We would at this time been a wee bit too old for Pokemon and kind of violently reacted against Pokemon, which nowadays of course have all made a differences with. We all love Pokemon here, but I think we thought that Pokemon was for kids.
But why?
Somehow Sonic was cooler than Pokemon.
Yeah, that's surely they're on the same level.
I don't. Yeah, because maybe Sonic and Knuckles was far enough. Either it was far enough in the past to win the time where we played those games, as kids that we weren't too concerned with it, or maybe we still considered it quite relevant and quite cool and somehow cooler than Pokemon. So we had Pikachu as a villain, we had Knuckles kind of having a violent hatred of Pokemon, although curiously not many other Pokemon appear in the game.
Zero, just Pikachu.
Just Pikachu, yeah. You would imagine in the full version of the game you might see some more Pokemon, or not, or fucking Gandhi and a ghost and fucking Maggie Thatcher and who knows.
Yeah, and maybe Martin Luther King Jr. would have shown up and Sly would have written some dialogue that was like, well, it's all well and good about black people, but what about Scottish people? And that's how I feel about the dialogue in this game.
There was a really powerful segment planned in Grassy Knoll Zone.
Since you are the creator, and this is, by all accounts, your baby, you and I'm going to give you the final thoughts, the final say on Knuckles versus the Pokemon.
The final thoughts about Knuckles versus Pokemon is don't play it, don't ever play it, don't look up any YouTube videos about it. I'm not the man that made that game. I've went through a lot of personal demons, a lot of hard fought kind of mental battles. I don't really want to be back in that space anymore, to be honest. So yeah, in my mind it doesn't exist, and I want it to not exist in anyone else's mind.
Tough shit, mate.
There you go, Sage. Well, I mean, hopefully this hasn't been... shit, why am I apologising? Why doesn't somebody say something more positive to wrap us up rather than me try to end on some kind of weird apologetic note?
So we've taken a mad, meandering, psychedelic journey through time and space, through Sonic fan games, past, present, in future, and leading you into the very present Sage 2020, where some games probably quite a lot better and more accomplished than these games that we have covered, but as always they are standing on the shoulders of absolute giants and kings like Sly and Rex.
There is going to be so much cool shit to check out. Speaking for myself, as I was saying, I was a tourist in your Sonic Amateur Games community. I will be checking out personally a load of stuff from fucking Sage 2020 because from the glimpse that I've had, I've been so fucking impressed. Well done, fucking troops all round. I will be getting involved this year big time.
Aye, just from the trailers I've seen, I'm really excited about T-Bat, which is a very charming indie game, not Sonic related at all, but a very charming kind of old school platformer. There's a virtual reality Sonic game, which I don't want to play because it's going to make me violently sick if I do play it. There's Adventures of Soggy the Hoggy, which is a kind of post-ironic Sonic style Sonic game with a very melancholic but also quite beautiful art style.
Love a bit of Sonic.
And also a game called Braz Sonic 20XX, which may not have impressed you very much in the trailer, but for me that kind of it points back to the old school, points back to this era. It looks, very amateurish, but also very much a labour of love with very handcrafted kind of thirdscape style art. So yeah, definitely check that one out. And there's sure there's going to be tons of impressive things. So enjoy yourself.
And just to finish off, well done to all developers. Congratulations on getting your demos and stuff out. And looking forward to seeing the finished versions. I do trust you that you will finish them because, as we said, that's a bit anomaly on the scene. But well done. These are all looking great, and all your projects are smashing. So, thank you very much for letting us come on here and talk absolute shite for almost 2.5 hours now. If you're still here, well done.
Aye, and if you've enjoyed any of this nonsense we've been talking, check out anchor.fm/Dynamite-Neddy. And there was a few episodes where we covered Sonic. There's an episode called the Sonic Showdown. There's an episode called Bigger Than MJ featuring Perfect Chaos Zero, where I went about Perfect Chaos Zero. And we've probably dropped a reference to Sonic in pretty much every other episode. So hopefully you can check it out.
We pumped your more.
Yes, that's how we say it. See you later.
See you later.